A raccoon that learned how to get into your trash can in the spring still remembers exactly how to do it the following year, with zero measurable decline. That's not a fun fact. That's a finding from a peer-reviewed field study published in 2024, and it completely changes the answer to the question you clicked on. Welcome back to Backyard Habitat Raccoon Chronicles. Grab a comfortable seat and your favorite snack. Let's go. So here's what this video is actually about. You want to know whether a raccoon that was removed from your property, or that you raised, or that you fed for years, whether that animal misses you. And the honest answer is, the science says something far stranger and more interesting than a simple yes or no. Most of what people believe about raccoon memory is wrong. The social life raccoons are actually running is something almost nobody talks about. And there's one piece of evidence, a single verified data point, that I'm saving for the end of this video, because it's the kind of thing that makes you rethink the entire question. Stick with me. I've spent a lot of time going through the raccoon cognition literature, and the thing that kept jumping out is how much of the popular understanding of these animals is built on a game of telephone that started over a century ago. Let's start there, because it matters for everything that comes after. You've probably heard that raccoons have a 3-year memory. It's everywhere. Wildlife forums, pest control sites, nature blogs. The problem is that number doesn't come from a study that actually measured 3 years of retention. In 1907, psychologist Lawrence W. Cole and Herbert Burnham Davis, a doctoral student at Clark University, each published the results of nearly identical experiments on the processes of learning, association, and memory in raccoons. They used puzzle box methodology, placing animals in wooden crates from which the animal had to escape by opening a latch, and observed how well the animals retained the ability to solve the same problem when confronted with it again. What Davis actually found was that raccoons retained their problem-solving knowledge for up to 286 days. Davis then extrapolated that problem-solving ability was preserved for more than a year, and somewhere between that 1907 paper and the modern internet, more than a year became 3 years, got copy-pasted a few thousand times, and turned into established science. It isn't. The 3-year figure is a myth built on a misread extrapolation from a 116-year-old experiment. But here's the twist: the real number might actually be more impressive. There's no indication that raccoons lose acquired knowledge between seasons. They seem to perform just as well at the end of a given season and the start of the next, basically continuing from the point where they left off. That's from a 2024 field study published in Behavioral Ecology, and it's a genuinely different claim than raccoons have a good memory. It's not that the memory slowly fades and they relearn it. Raccoons have the ability to retain foraging-related information for an extended period of time, with their retention spanning many months and averaging close to a full year. The knowledge doesn't erode between seasons. It pauses and then picks right back up. Think about what that means for a raccoon that spent a year learning your yard, your schedule, your garbage routine. That information doesn't go stale when winter hits. It's stored. So when you ask whether a raccoon misses you, the first thing to understand is that the memory capacity to carry you forward is real. But what exactly is the raccoon remembering? Because this is where it gets genuinely strange. Raccoons probably don't recognize your face at all. I know that's hard to hear if you've spent months hand-feeding one, but their sensory world is wired completely differently than ours. What a raccoon actually knows about you is a bundled package: your walking gait, your voice pitch, your scent, the time of day you appear. It's not your face, it's your pattern. And the organ doing most of that work isn't the nose or the ears, it's the hands. A raccoon's forepaws contain an extraordinarily dense concentration of mechanoreceptors, nerve endings that process touch, and a large portion of the raccoon's brain is dedicated to processing input from those paws, comparable in proportion to what primates allocate to hand sensation. When a raccoon that trusts you reaches out and touches your hand, that's not affection in the way we'd frame it. That's the raccoon's primary sensory system doing what it does best. If a raccoon is going to know you in any deep sense, it knows you through your hands more than through your face or your voice. And there's a behavior that makes this even clearer. You've seen raccoons wash their food. The popular explanation is hygiene. That's wrong. Wetting the paws softens the skin and dramatically increases nerve responsiveness. It essentially turns the sensitivity dial all the way up, letting the raccoon perceive an object through touch with far greater resolution. Even raccoons with no water nearby will still go through the washing motion because the motion itself is the point. They're not cleaning the food, they're sharpening their hands. So when a raccoon is comfortable enough to handle food from you or to rest its paws on your arm, it's using its most sophisticated sensory system on you. That's a significant thing. Now here's something that almost nobody mentions when they talk about raccoon attachment, and it's the piece that reframes the whole question. Raccoons are not solitary animals. The image of the lone raccoon raiding your trash at 2 a.m. is real, but it's not the whole picture. Raccoons actually exhibit a highly flexible social structure known as a fission-fusion society, meaning their group composition changes over time, with individuals coming together and separating based on resource availability, reproductive status, and seasonal needs. That term, fission-fusion, is the same one researchers use to describe chimpanzees and elephants. The core of raccoon social life revolves around related females. Mature females often establish overlapping home ranges with their mothers, sisters, and daughters, forming a matrilineal kin network, and these related females frequently share denning sites, especially during the winter and early spring. These fission-fusion societies primarily consist of mothers, daughters, and their offspring, demonstrating strong familial bonds that can last for years. And the sex difference here is something almost no one talks about. Female kits often disperse to a territory right next to their mothers, staying loosely connected for life. Male kits get pushed out for miles. So when you're asking whether a raccoon can form a lasting bond with a place or a person, the answer depends heavily on whether you're dealing with a female or a male. Attachment in raccoons is sex differentiated, and it's built into their biology. This matters for the central question because it means raccoons are not animals that lack the social wiring for attachment. Raccoons appear to live in a fission-fusion society with many short-term acquaintances and a few long-term associations. They run a social network. They maintain relationships across time and space. The idea that a raccoon can't form a meaningful bond with a location or a person because it's just a wild animal is not supported by how raccoon society actually works. And there's one more thing before we get to the data point I mentioned at the top, because I haven't forgotten about it, and it's coming. But first, this. If any of this is making you rethink what you know about the animals in your yard, there's a lot more where this came from on this channel. Subscribe if you're new and drop a comment below. I want to know whether you've had a raccoon that seemed to recognize you and how it behaved. Those observations are genuinely useful, and I read everything. Now, the data point. A California wildlife rehabilitation center raised an orphaned raccoon, rehabilitated her, and released her into the wild. 13 years later, a raccoon was brought into that same center as an unrelated patient. Standard intake procedure includes scanning for a microchip. They scanned her, same chip. It was her. She had been living wild the entire time, 13 years. That's not a story. That's a verified data point, confirmed by a microchip number. And what it tells us is that whatever map a raccoon builds of its world, the places, the patterns, the people, it does not erase that map, it carries it. So here's where we land. The 3-year memory figure you've heard is a myth. The real picture is a memory system that doesn't fade between seasons. Built into an animal that runs a matrilineal social network, recognizes the people in its life through a bundled sensory signature rather than a face, and processes the world primarily through hands that are wired like a primate's. Does your raccoon miss you? The honest answer is, it depends on what kind of relationship was built, and it depends on something most people don't want to hear. Rehabbers who work with raccoons will tell you that the animals most likely to show the strongest attachment to a specific person are also the animals most likely to struggle after release. Deep human imprinting, the kind that produces a raccoon that genuinely tracks your pattern, seeks your hands, waits for you. That same imprinting tends to come with poor foraging instincts, disorientation in the wild, and sometimes fatal outcomes. If the answer to "will your raccoon miss you" is yes in the deepest possible sense, that bond may actually be a signal that the animal was set up to struggle without you. So the question isn't just whether your raccoon misses you. The question is what that missing means, and whether the relationship was built in a way that left the animal better off, or more dependent. That's the part most versions of this conversation never get to. Now you have it. If you want to go deeper on how raccoon cognition actually works, the problem solving, the urban adaptation, the individual personality differences that researchers are only starting to map, that video is coming soon. If this video has resonated with you, feel free to like and subscribe for the best weekly content about our backyard friends. See you in the next one.